Detective John Smith and militiawoman Hella Chenk walked into the captain's office, idly chatting with each other. Captain Kentavasi was a Cambrian woman who had left her home to join the 16th, spent her time in service, and then joined up with Duchess Lethnesh's militia as an advisor when she was given the task of transferring Boston from a red zone to a green. Kentavasi had gained a reputation among the Shield for being utterly fearless during the July 4th riots 3 years ago, taking a Molotov to the face and walking through the fire in order to slap the rioter who threw it, and gained a secondary reputation for being even-handed by the humans, since the only punishment she levied for the entire 3-day riots was the execution of a trio of Shield soldiers who started the chaos by crashing a Flag Day party with intent to catch some males. No rioters were pardoned, but she let them leave without memorizing their faces. So she continued her work, slowly shaping the militia into something other than a band of thugs. She started the practice of reaching out to previous law enforcement and other well-connected humans to act as interpreters for the militia patrols. She took part in multiple press conferences, declaring that these interpreters had two goals: ensuring citizens of this Imperium can communicate without difficulty, and ensuring all rights afforded to citizens are respected. There had been a minor scandal on the Shield side of politics when she revealed these interpreters would be carrying cameras and black box equipment, while being given secondary orders to ensure that if any militia woman broke the law, they were caught and the breach of ethics reported. Corruption went down, arrests stabilized, and the city stopped having riots when people got off work for the weekend. Then the tea time chat happened, where Governess Lethnesh spoke with the Second Sons of Liberty, and now Captain Kentavasi became captain of the refounded Boston City Watch, or Boston Police Force, or Imperial Home Guard. It didn't matter what you call it, she was in charge. "John, Hella, sit down," Captain Kentavasi began, gesturing to the set of chairs placed against the wall. There were 6 chairs in total, 3 sized for Shield, 3 sized for humans. It was part of the governess's policy. Every place of governmental importance must have at least 1 chair sized for humans and at least 1 for Shield. A public fund existed for any private businesses who wanted to follow that policy. I've just gotten off the con with our interior attaché, along with our Illin department. This case has gotten significantly more strange. Interior says they don't know about having an agent with this description or ID on this planet, and Illin says that the black box reports conversations with various high nobility, including one of the previous governesses. "Which one?" Detective John asked. "Drunkard, crackdown, or who?" "Trafficker," Kentavasi replied to a pair of winces. About 2 governesses ago, the head of the Shield government in Boston had been thoroughly tied to not only human trafficking on-world, but attempting to ship humans off-world as well. After that news broke, along with reports of connections to something called purity control, and a few other minor as compared to slavery crimes, a Boston mob stormed her palace and hung her from the flagpole. Ironically, the fact that various Shield Marines and militia forces joined in to string her up did more to stabilize relations between the Perp and Dirt communities than any of the appeasement policies done by her replacement. Kentavasi cleared her throat. "It is looking at these factors, and others you are not privy to, that the department has reason to believe that this is a true Crown's infiltration operation." Hella swore. John looked confused. "True Crowns?" Hella looked him dead in the eye. To put very complicated history simply, you know all the rumours and slander about the Imperium and Shield? "I'm assuming you mean the evil rumours," John asked. "Every single one is true regarding the Crowns." John swore. "Ucker!" Milk shouted at the top of her lungs, toppling away from the bench Venture's Fourth was sitting on, as the topiary next to her raised an arm, brushing creeper vines and leaves away from a pale orange face shaped very much like Venture's Force. "I am Foster's Grove through sincere cultivation," the Gearschild said in a motherly voice, standing up and holding out a hand. The hand, and arm, was completely mechanical and intricately painted to resemble foliage. The arm itself seemed to have panels growing some kind of moss built into it. With a touch of hesitation, Milk took the hand and shook it. It was warm. "Ivy McDermott," she said. "It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Sorry about the, "Scream of fear as I startled you?" Foster's Grove asked, raising an eyebrow. "Iveen, dear, it's fine if you didn't recognize me as a Gearschild. I am a bit of an exception to the norm." "You actually said my name right," Milk said after a moment of pause. "Of course. You are courting my daughter. Do you think I wouldn't have the common decency to at least look up how to pronounce your name?" "Well, I also have a very good synthetic voice box helping," she said with a laugh. "Either way, like I said, I am dear Venture's mother, and it is wonderful to meet you." Milk smiled. "You as well, Mum. If I may ask, what do you do? I mean, I'm assuming with all the plants." "Botanist?" Foster's Grove asked. "No, I'm not a botanist, or gardener for that matter. I teach practical physics at the youth level. Oh, about 3rd or 4th grade, translated into your systems." Milk pulled a seat up across from the two as Foster's Grove settled back down to sitting next to her daughter. Watching for it now, Milk began to notice how subtle the cybernetics covering the matronly Gearchild were applied, how vines and plant-covered clothing created the impression of perfect verdant skin, and, when idly glancing over her, all one could see was the plants. "So, how does," she gestures to the vines and moss, "how does all this work? Pardon my asking, but doesn't a lot of that stuff have roots?" "Why, yes," Foster's Grove replies cheerfully, "but for the most part, the roots are guided along the channels in my cybernetics. It's really quite fascinating. Did you know that you only need 23 pinquats?" "And that's where I'm cutting you off," Vengeance Wolf interjects, closing her computer. "Milk, word of advice, do not get my mum talking about physics, or even anything close to physics." "Why?" Milk asks. "What's wrong with physics? Purest way to observe the practical functions of the galaxy. Not as impartial as math. I'm significantly less biased than biology. It's almost divine in the way it blends with our world." Foster's Grove laughed. "And someone else finally gets it, unlike my beloved daughter," the woman said with a warm smile. "There is beauty in watching how the numbers come together, how orbitals blend with tides, and how all that creates everything. The poetic geometry of all things." Milk returned her smile, and began to open her mouth to speak before Venture's Fourth let out a metallic screech that was somehow both ear-piercing, terrifying, and utterly purulent. "Can we please not try and convert my friend right now?" she asked her mother. "Let's just go get some food and we can talk more there. I know I reinforced my ass, but this bench still hurts." "Language!" Foster's Grove cried with feigned offence, as Milk laughed and waved the pair up and forward. It was time for some shore leave. Cookie was in the process of fleecing some poor cat person at the shill equivalent of poker when Milk entered the patrol bar. Venture's Fourth had left after their little date to catch up more with her mother, and so Milk wandered down to the only place outside the embassy flying the Imperial flag in this neutral station. Fair Harbour stations, like the one the pair of patrol pilots found themselves in, were commonplace along the rim of the Imperium and in the periphery. Neutral locations and the legal equivalent of international waters, these stations were perfect trade hubs, logistical anchors, and courier depots. When trade crosses borders, soldiers don't. So, Fair Harbour Station sprouted up everywhere there was trade to have, along every major intersection of trade routes, above so many periphery worlds. And the patrol tended to anchor to them to refill during their convoy escorts, in order to stick with the ships they were escorting. The Fair Harbour Station, low tide, was an incredibly common stopping point for the patrol, particularly for the first cruise of a patrol crew. It was close to an Imperial fast reaction force. If pirates attacked it, help would arrive swiftly. It was close to the Imperial border. If need be, people could be shipped home. And it was in territory so friendly to the Imperium, there was a running bet to see if the systems would be petitioning to join the Empress's Light every time the Planetary Congress met for their yearly council. Low tide, however, was still a Fair Harbour Station, therefore officially neutral. That way it could host not only Alliance street markets, but Imperial surplus shops and Consortium special employment clearinghouses, all along the same street. And so, as Cookie sat in the small power flying the Imperial flag, alongside the patrol battle standard, fleecing an alien cat girl at alien poker while watching some Halcom and a Dixie chat in the corner over some alien stew, none of it felt wrong. It felt like something out of Star Wars, but it wasn't wrong feeling. "And there we go, cheeky slice. That wins me the pot if I'm remembering the rules right," Cookie said, putting on a bit of a show. This wasn't even close to the first time he played this card game, and the skills he'd learned fleecing ships of sailors at poker served him well in this place, hanging in the void between stars. "No, no way, you have to be cheating," the cat woman across from him shouted. "And how do you know that?" Cookie replies, leaning forward to collect his chips. Because I was cheating to beat you, the pedestrian called out in the tone of faintly mocking hurt. Cookie paused. Wait, so you admit you were cheating at cards? In a patrol bar? Well, it's not like I won, the cat replied grumpily. One of the other handful of pedestrians moved over to grab their grumpy card player and bring her back to their table for consolatory drinks, allowing Cookie to collect his winnings in peace. Right, well, I'm never playing against you again, Slivers muttered, sitting at Cookie's side. I was trying to peek at your cards, and it still didn't help. The trick in Cheeky Slice wasn't to win without cheating, after all. It was to cheat better than everyone else. Cookie just sent back a wink as the credit sticks and assorted barter goods were placed into the backpack he'd kept sitting at his feet. On a station like this, it was always useful to carry around some kind of backpack. You never know what you might want to buy. So, what did the message say, Slivers? Cookie asked, taking a sip of his barely touched drink. You must have listened to it, 30 times? What? No, Slivers denied. Only maybe 23 times. Cookie laughed. You still haven't told me what it was about. Slivers had barely begun to open her mouth when the door to the bar flung open, and a figure walked inside. They were male, Nigru, and scared. That all was able to be seen clearly as the figure walked inside in the deliberately unhurried gait of someone who wanted very much to not stand out in the crowd, the type of person who had someone following them. The fact every head turned to look at them as they entered probably didn't help. Hey, come over here, Cookie called out, gesturing towards a chair that was blocked from view of the door by a misplaced coat rack. Take a seat and take a load off. You're among friends here. The night crew walked over, small horns and glowing tattoos beautifully displayed by the sleek, stylish white toga, trimmed with grey, and took a seat. Thank you, he said quietly. This is Patrol Pub, yes? His trade shirt was accented heavily, like he only learned it recently and had to cut his courses short, but it was enough to get across the message. Yeah, this is a patrol bar. We got the flag in the corner and everything. You want a drink? Red grain? Blue growl? Cookie asked before pausing for a moment. Protection? The night crew nodded, not really answering the question. Well, we'll make sure you get all of that here. We're a patrol bar. What kind of people would we be if... It was at that moment that the door swung open once more. A trio of night crew women, wearing well-cut suits and ceramic plates, held in a flak vest, strode in, heavy pistols at their hips. On their chests was the logo for the consortium's leading company, in organic repossession. The one up front smiled and held out an omnislate, showing the picture of a male night crew, looking a lot healthier than the man sitting across from Cookie. This here, she began in exotically accented trade shield, is a contract jumper. There is a reward for his return to his contract holder. We are given charge to use reasonable force to reacquire him. I do hope this doesn't have to get into a fight, does it? The two women flanking her reached behind themselves and pulled out consortium-made riot guns, ball-pop energy rifles made to hurt. Otherwise we might have a little incident. Now, come along, contract number 99349-3PEM. It's time to get back to your contract holder, the woman said with a cruel smile, looking directly at the hiding male. The bar shifted, and the off-duty members of patrol began to stand up and face the intruders. Cookie gave the night crew male a reassuring smile as he rose and grabbed a bottle off the table by the neck. Well, we certainly won't be doing that, slaver. A woman dressed in half a patrol uniform, the lower half, said, This is a patrol bar. You can't take the men. The consortium might want him, but he's under our wing. The patrol runs this bar. You can all go to the deep. Whatever the night crew organic repo agents were about to say was cut off, when Cookie broke his bottle against the table. And then, as a half-dozen more night crew rushed into the bar, the fight really kicked off.